Now that we've gone over the importance of clean power in protecting your home theater, I'm back with the second C of high definition home theater: cables. You may have high definition components like an HD TV, digital surround sound receiver, and Blu-ray player, but the right cables and connections make as big a difference in the picture and sound quality as the home theater components themselves. So you always want to buy the best cable available to get the performance you paid for from your high definition home theater gear. So, what cables do you need for a high-definition home theater? Right now, there are two types of cables that can deliver high-definition video: component video and HDMI. There are a lot of HDMI cables out there, but how do you know which ones you're really getting? If you shop for cables, keep in mind just because the cable says HDMI or has an HDMI connector doesn't necessarily mean it's actually an HDMI cable. Let me explain. A cable must be tested and meet some pretty strict standards to receive the certification that actually makes it an HDMI cable. The next thing to consider is performance. Make sure to buy the best possible HDMI cable so that you'll have a cable that's advanced enough to handle the new technology found in the components you buy in the future. Length is also a consideration with HDMI cables. So if you have, say, a projector that you have to run cables to and you need a high-performance HDMI cable that won't lose signal or pick up interference along the way. Unlike most HDMI cables on the market, only the highest performance cables can handle not only typical short runs, but can go the distance as well. Consider purchasing an HDMI cable that doesn't just meet the standard, but exceeds it. Monster is a good example of a manufacturer that has always created cables that are above the standards. HDMI is the most advanced connection on the market, and in many ways it's the most important connection in the history of home theater. With HDMI, you can get the purest digital picture and sound. It is the highest performance connection for audio and video today. In fact, HDMI can carry 1080p high-definition video as well as 7.1 digital surround sound, all on a single compact cable. Imagine that, one cable that delivers audio and video performance that used to take 9 cables? More importantly, HDMI is an all-digital connection. That means the signal remains digital from source to screen. You see and hear everything exactly as it was meant to be. There's no loss of picture or sound quality. And there's no additional pixels or artifacts created when the picture is converted from digital to analog and back again. HDMI is the digital superhighway for today's cutting-edge home theater audio and video. So, whether you're watching a Blu-ray movie or a high-definition cable program, an HDMI connection offers the sharpest, most vivid video with the smoothest, most natural motion and the brightest, deepest colors. Here to explain this to you further is the authority on HDMI, Steve Venuti, Vice President of Marketing for HDMI Licensing, LLC. He's going to tell you all about the past, the present, and the future of HDMI.
Hi, I'm Steve Venuti, the Vice President of Marketing for HDMI Licensing, LLC. We're the group that develops and manages the latest high-definition standard in home theater, HDMI. HDMI stands for the High Definition Multimedia Interface. It's the new standard for connecting all of your high-definition home theater devices so that they can give you the highest quality entertainment experience. However, your home theater audio and video equipment may have varying data requirements to perform their best. Different AV components require different levels of HDMI data throughput. An HD TV rated for 720p video requires a relatively low level of HDMI throughput. Today's benchmark 1080p HD TVs require more data and therefore need an HDMI cable capable of carrying that extra data. Depending on your home theater equipment, you should choose an HDMI cable that can effectively deliver the maximum amount of data your system requires. For instance, standard DVD players deliver a relatively low resolution of 480 lines in progressive scan. This requires a data throughput of only 0.81 gigabits per second. Standard speed HDMI, which can deliver a 720p or 1080i video signal, requires a 2.23 gigabit throughput. 1080p video requires a high-speed HDMI cable capable of 4.5 gigabits of throughput. That's an incredible amount of data, and it all means that you get an unbelievable picture and sound from your home theater. However, HDMI's data pipe can deliver up to 10.2 gigabits of data per second. So today's HDMI standard is already fast enough for the future of home theater entertainment. Do you really think we have reached the end? Not by a long shot. We at HDMI understand that this industry is advancing at lightning speed, and so we are always adding more capabilities to the standard so that the manufacturers of products can give you better and better audio and video fidelity and quality. Like any other technology, HDMI is evolving. It's currently at version 1.3. In HDMI 1.3, we essentially doubled the bandwidth that can go through the pipe. We've increased the bandwidth to over 10.2 gigabits per second. So what can you do with all this new bandwidth? Well, there are a couple of things. Right now, 1080p HD TVs are the highest standard available on the market. 1080p means that there are 1080 lines of resolution displayed on the screen at once. In the future, you're going to start seeing even higher resolution screens, perhaps 1440p. This increased resolution will require more bandwidth. More bandwidth is going to mean there's a lot more data passing through this single cable. So we've also designated two categories of cables: standard HDMI cables, which are cables in the market now and in the past, and have been tested and rated to support enough bandwidth to power a 1080i signal. But now, because we're going to see situations that require more and more bandwidth, we have designated a category called high-speed HDMI cable, which means the cable has been tested at the full bandwidth capability of HDMI 1.3, 10.2 gigabits per second.